What up, Cavs Nation? I'm your host, Ethan Sands, and I'm back with another episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. And we are coming to you after the Cavs' latest win, 128-107 over the Minnesota Timberwolves. And guys, this team, there's 29 games left in this season, guys. That's where my head is at. We just got done with the Cavs' 43rd win of the season, and there's only 29 left. So we are also talking about how when we talk about the prop bets that came into the season, 48.5 was what they were projected at. They are just 7 games away, or what's my math? 6 games away. Yep, 6 games away from surpassing that already, and there's 29 games left. Chris, what are you taking away going into the All-Star break? Obviously, there's still one more game. You are going to be in Toronto for that one, but me and Jimmy will not. So let's think about this in the light of where we are in the current status of the season.
Well, first of all, you look like you're about to go to the Arctic. Meanwhile, Jimmy looks like he's headed for a beach resort somewhere.
All-Star break, baby. Catch the fever.
Are you going to Cabo? You going to Turks and Caicos? You got the outfit ready for it, flashing a little chest.
Yeah,
he's taking Darius'
probably a little too much chest for the pod. We can button that up. This is a family show. I did, however, wear the shirt to jury duty today. Take that for what it's worth. I might have. I'm surprised I didn't get sent home for distracting the lawyers.
Showing a little chest hair. Hey, ladies, how's it going? That would be a great way to pick up a lady. Jury duty.
That's
in
right.
the courthouse.
That's right.
What a story that would be.
They never expect to see chest hair at jury duty, so you keep them on their toes. Hit them when they're vulnerable.
Is it a
obviously. Yeah, hit them when they're vulnerable.
That's what I'm saying. He looks like he's ready for a beach resort.
Darius Garland's tickets are being shipped over to you, Jimmy, from his Cabo trip that he's now changed to San Francisco. Book it, as he said in his latest Tenfold episode that everybody should go watch on YouTube.
Jimmy's going to order a Mai Tai and a Miami Vice. He's ready to go. Get some fruity drinks. My
with
goodness.
An umbrella. With an umbrella in it. Give me an umbrella.
What were we talking about?
What was the question you asked? What do you think about? You were distracted. Yeah. You were not the only one.
I got distracted by Jimmy's chest.
It's it happens to the best of them. It happens to the best.
Oh my God!
Didn't expect to see that at 11:52 at night.
Chris, what do you think about the Cavs being 43-10 and going into the quote-unquote second half of the season, only 6 games away from matching or beating their original prop bets for where their record was going to stand this season?
I mean, look, everything about them says that they are a legitimate contender, and they're even more so of a contender now that they address their greatest perceived positional weakness, right? Like, it's always so hard to sit here and say that a team needs something when they're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, when they have, at this point, 43 wins. When they're winning at a historic rate compared to what they've done in franchise history and compared to what a lot of teams throughout NBA history have done. But like, for lack of a better phrase, they needed somebody like DeAndre Hunter. And I think you felt that tonight. You could just see his size. You could see his physicality. You could see his length. It was just a different kind of feel when you look down on the floor and, DeAndre Hunter is next to Jared Allen and Evan Mobley as opposed to Max Strus, as opposed to Isaac Okoro. And I think, one of the things that we've talked about throughout the course of the season with the Cavs is flexibility in terms of play style, flexibility in terms of lineups and combinations. And you just have to be able to play a bunch of different ways, especially when you're talking about what it's going to take if you get into a postseason series, because not every opponent is going to throw the same thing at you. Not every opponent is going to demand you play a certain kind of way or be good in certain kind of areas. So, just watching the Cavs tonight in DeAndre Hunter's debut, it just brings it home that this is a more complete team because they can play more styles. because they can run more lineups, because they have more capable guys that look like DeAndre Hunter and play like DeAndre Hunter. And those are the kinds of guys that you need when you're playing against the best teams in the NBA and the ones that the Cavs are going to see throughout the course of their playoff run.
Guys, this is one of the best starts to a defensive performance that the Cavs have had, right? Tonight was the first time since 1997, 1998 that the Cavs held an opponent to 0 for 16 from the field to start a game. And that's not even discussing the point that this is the first team in the NBA this season to allow 2 field goals or fewer in an opening quarter. The Cavs held the Timberwolves to just 2 of 21 from the field in the first quarter. That's tied for the second fewest field goals allowed by the Cavs in any quarter since the 2002-2003 season. But that was in large part because of having DeAndre Hunter on the floor. And a big portion of this and what Kenny Atkinson is going to have to do is figuring out where he falls, where he fits in lineups and rotations and all these different things, especially when Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro get back. And I'm just going to say this now. I think that just based on what we've seen throughout the majority of the season, that Dean Wade's going to consistently come and play the 4-man alongside Jarrett Allen, and that leaves the opportunity for DeAndre Hunter to play alongside Evan Mobley, if that's the 4-man that Kenny Atkinson wants to go with. But initially, what was your guys' perspective, and what did you guys think about DeAndre Hunter in his debut as a Cleveland Cavalier tonight?
Just looks different. You feel him out there. You see him out there. He is big. He's put together. He is all of 6'8". He might even be 6'9". He's got long arms, and he can contest shots, can fight through screens. He's got the foot speed to stay in front of guys. It just looked different out there with him. And you can sit there and you can look at the numbers. Doesn't matter right now. This is his first game. He's trying to learn the system. He's trying to get integrated. Teammates are trying to learn him. But the key words are flexibility and optionality. You're Kenny Atkinson, and you've got all these different ways that you can play it. You've got all these different lineup and combinations that are available to you now because of this one guy, a guy who you believe you don't have to worry about in a playoff environment. We talked about this on previous podcasts. Like, there were multiple guys within the Cavs' top 11 in their rotation of how much can we count on this guy when we get into the playoffs? There are still some on this roster, right? But now with DeAndre, you can play him at the 3, 4, or 5. With Dean Wade, you can play him at the 3, 4, or 5. With Max Strus, you can play him at the 2, 3. Sometimes you can get away with him at the 4. Sometimes. Isaac Okoro, you can play him 2, 3, and 4. You can get away with him as a 4 because he's put together. Because he's strong, he's tough, he's a good rebounder. Because, he'll take charges. He'll defend bigger guys. He has no problem with that. So it's just all these different options now are available to Kenny. And lineup flexibility and optionality are things that you want as a coach. I mean, think about this. Like, theoretically, the Cavs could run DeAndre Hunter, Dean Wade, Evan Mobley, and the 2 guards. Good luck with that. Like, what do you do with that? All 5 can shoot. All 5 can pass, dribble, and shoot. All of them have shown a willingness to defend. And now you've got those 3 guys in the front court, Dean Wade, DeAndre Hunter, and Evan Mobley, protecting Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, covering up for their weaknesses. That's really, really difficult for any opponent to deal with. So that's the thing. The Cavs are just going to be more difficult to guard, and they're going to be more difficult to solve on the defensive end of the floor because of the different lineups and combinations that Kenny can put out there. He could play Jarrett, Evan, DeAndre, and the 2 guards. He could split up the 2 guards and put Isaac Okoro at the 2 or put Max Strus at the 2. And it's just like, it's a great problem for Kenny Atkinson to have. I wouldn't even call it a problem, but finding minutes and finding what's going to work the best, what 2-man groups are the best, what 3-man groups are the best, what 5-man lineup is going to be. He's going to have a blast figuring this out down the stretch. He's going to be the mad scientist getting in his lab, and he's just going to be like, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. And there just aren't as many, I don't want to say unplayable because that's too far, but there just aren't as many questions about the consistent playability of multiple guys that are really, really important to this team. The way that those questions existed 5-6 days ago.
Kenny's got great, just as an aside, he's got great mad scientist hair, I think. He keeps it well gelled. He keeps it well gelled for the most part, but I bet you if you rubbed a balloon on that, it would stick straight up and he'd start looking like a real mad scientist. I just want everyone to have that.
I don't know if that's gel,
image.
Jimmy. I think it's mostly sweat. I think
either or. Sometimes it's gelled. Sometimes it's clear he's been wearing
natural
a hat
gel,
at practice or something.
Sweat.
Whatever. Anywho, I should point out the Minnesota Timberwolves, while they had a top 3 offensive rating over their last 10 games tonight. No Mike Conley and just frankly a lot of suspect shooting around Ant tonight. So that's a recipe for struggle bus if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah.
That being said, you can see it. You can see the vision. And the thing that kept going through my head when I was watching the early Hunter minutes against Ant was it's just you're making stars work that much harder at every level of the defense. DeAndre Hunter, Rudy Gobert is a really good screener. Wasn't always taking DeAndre Hunter out of the play. DeAndre Hunter was navigating. He was fighting over. He was angling his body, and he's so long that he can recover. And if you think you have him in jail, he'll come over the top and block the shot. We didn't see it tonight, but it will happen. There will be some guys who learn the hard way just how long that guy's arms are. And I'm just thinking of matchups. It's like even Isaac Okoro, as sturdy of a defender as he is, as much as he can guard above his, punch above his weight as a defender, there were just times where it's like Jason Tatum's just shooting over this guy, or guys can go into his chest. That's not happening anymore with DeAndre Hunter. It's not the same. And it's it used to be if you get to the rim, if Ant's going against, Max Strus tonight because Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade are out, Max is going to fight and he's going to make Ant feel him and all that. But Ant's his athletic supremacy is going to bear out eventually. And then now it's like the equation that he has to solve is at the rim with Jared Allen and or Evan Mobley, right? Well, now it's like, no, you got to expend all this energy just to get to that point. And now that makes the equation that you used to have to think to solve even harder to solve because you're going up against someone who's as strong as you, bigger than you, that you have to get past, and then you have to climb the Twin Towers. It's a completely different equation for star players in the playoffs.
And from the standpoint of DeAndre Hunter, there's more energy to expend defensively now. There's less responsibility that he's going to have on the offensive end of the floor. Look, he wasn't the offensive engine of the Hawks. That was Trae Young. Trae was the high usage offensive engine. But DeAndre, they needed his scoring. They needed it. They weren't the same team without it. That's why he got himself in the 6th man of the year conversation. For the Cavs, what they get from DeAndre is more of a luxury on the offensive end of the floor. He's not going to be any higher than 3rd in touches. He's not going to be any higher 3rd in shot attempts. So his role and his responsibility and what he can focus on, that's going to be different than what it was in Atlanta. He's even talked about it. Kenny Atkinson has talked about it. We're focused on your defense. Like, we think you can take us to a different level on the defensive end of the floor. And DeAndre even said, I pride myself on defense. I was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year when I was in college. But obviously what was needed from me in Atlanta was a little bit different. So, like, my attention to detail, my focus, like all those different things, like how much energy I could spend on it's just different, right? And in saying all of that, you saw evidence tonight of him being like a different offensive player and being capable of things that, no offense to Dean Wade, but Dean Wade's not. No offense to Isaac Okoro's not. There was a moment in the game where, DeAndre had a live dribble. He's out beyond the 3-point line. Rudy Gobert had switched against him, did a little jab step, pull up 3. I was like, yeah, Max ain't doing that, right? Like Isaac's not doing that. Dean's not doing that. So it's just a different dimension that he can bring to this offense as well. The first basket that he made was a 2-man action of Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley flipped the ball to him, came off a screen, catch and shoot, bang. Like, you're not running that stuff with Isaac. You're not running that stuff with Dean Wade. DeAndre can be effective in the post. DeAndre can be effective at the elbow extended, the mid-post area. So there's just like different things that Kenny is going to look for and he's going to find here over the next month and a half that just gives the Cavs a different ceiling offensively when DeAndre is out there. And I think it's going to give them a different look defensively. And you kind of felt that at the very beginning of the game. Like, look, Minnesota missing 16 shots to open the game wasn't because of DeAndre Hunter, but he was a part of that. The force that he was playing with defensively, the effort that he was bringing defensively, the way that he was making Ant work just to get to his spots, all of that felt a little bit different. And now you start to envision, okay, what happens when he gets comfortable? All right, what happens when he starts understanding things a little bit better? All right, what happens when his teammates start understanding him and the coaching staff understands him and how to best use him? All those different things. It's just a really, really exciting thing for the Cavs to have this kind of chess piece to move around the board. And it's not like a pawn that can only move in one direction, right? There are multiple directions where the Cavs can move and where DeAndre can move. And it's really, really exciting. And it just gives them, a bunch of different options. And Kenny's going to have a really, really good time trying to figure those out.
Before Jimmy cuts in really quickly. So is he a bishop or is he a knight? Chess nerd here. I got to ask these questions.
I am not good at chess. Which is the one that moves in the L? Is that the knight?
That's
the
horsey.
That's the horsey. And the bishop
the
goes diagonal.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Right. So I feel like the knight, multiple directions, right? Down and then over.
Yep.
Yeah. That one's more valuable in chess, right?
They're both the same value, but sure.
You lost me at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we play checkers?
Yeah.
Can we play checkers?
Yeah. King me.
Come on. All right, go ahead.
I can already hear people making their JB Bickerstaff jokes.
Some play checkers and other people play chess.
Oh, JB's calling. I'm sorry. I've defended JB enough on the pod. No, JB didn't have the same freedom. Didn't have the same freedom as Kenny. Everyone should know that. Didn't have the same freedom. Yep. Didn't have the same leeway. I just want to say real quick on DeAndre Hunter. This is not just an on-the-ball conversation. Like, imagine, I don't know, like, honestly, a worst-case scenario. Philadelphia gets the 8 seed. Oh, no, you have to deal with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey and Paul George in the playoffs. Let's Tyrese Maxey, one of these fast, quick twitch guards that, either you have Isaac Okoro on them or maybe it's Donovan or Darius. They're on the floor with DeAndre. DeAndre, not necessarily, I don't think, is going to be your top choice to put on a guy like Tyrese Maxey, but just the way he can show off of if he's one pass away or if you can put him on a shaky shooter, the difference in DeAndre Hunter's arms occupying this space and say Max Strus's arms occupying the space, the lane looks smaller. Guards are less likely to attack it. And if they do, they are more likely to have that ball picked away from them. He's just a defensive weapon at every single level of the defense.
And just to wrap this up, because I know we could be nerds and go into all of the rotations that are possible with DeAndre Hunter and place that we probably will do that because I actually think that's pretty fun to go through all the lineups. I
Yeah.
tried to make Jimmy do that yesterday and he kind of brushed it off. So we'll save that for a podcast, not
No way. I
after a
want my
game or
mega
anything.
bigs. I want Dean Wade, Jared Allen, DeAndre Hunter, and Evan Mobley. That's what I want. The wall
So we'll
of
do that a different
wingspan.
day.
If that lineup gets played, it's going to be called the wall of wingspan.
Oh man, already
I will
coming
say
up with
they did
nicknames.
lose one of the best two-man combinations in the entire NBA by stats.
I heard you say that to Kenny Atkinson after, and he was like, "Don't tell me it was George and Sam Merrill."
And I said, yes. Yes, it
Man.
was. And
But
like even the coaches will admit that George is a connector. Yeah, Kenny loved that word. George is a connector on the offensive end of the floor. Will definitely be missed at certain points.
100%. But I know I've kept you guys hostage for over an hour, so at this point I'm asking questions because I feel like it. I feel like we have to give substance to this. But Evan Mobley had one of his most dominant games tonight. We didn't get into him too much, obviously, other than playing alongside DeAndre and how that works. Jimmy, just what did you like about the aggressiveness? What did you like about his footwork? Obviously, we're still waiting on his three-point shot to come all the way back from what it was in the beginning of the season. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. That's how calf injuries kind of go. But what did you think about his impact tonight, especially playing on a two-way dominance, 4 blocks, 2 steals, along with 20-plus points in a double-double?
Yeah, we just need to read that stat line. If nothing else, we need to read that stat line out loud before the pod is over. So I was looking through. We were on like legitimate 5x5 watch for Evan Mobley at halftime, which I guess according to StatHead, no Cav has ever posted a 5x5 in franchise history. That's kind of crazy if true.
They
But
stat
he was-
corrected like 2 or 3 rebounds too.
Oh yeah,
It seemed like he had in the first quarter. Like at one point he was at 6 or 7 and they dropped down to 4. And I looked back and I said, what the hell just happened?
yeah. Evan Mobley was freaking awesome tonight. I'm still kind of skeptical about the this season viability of his 3-point accuracy in the playoffs. Long term, I'm way more bullish on it than I was to start the season. This season, I'm still not sure. But honestly, if he's playing like this, I really don't care. I don't care. He is an absolute menace at both ends of the court. We have 6 stocks, steals, and blocks tonight. He was going into dudes' chests, and Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid are nothing to sneeze at under the basket. He was he looked like the guy that was the breakout player who became an all-star earlier this season. Again, I looked after the third quarter. I think he had like 26, 9, 4 blocks and 5 assists and 2 steals or something like that. His third quarter, 3 quarters stat line, Evan Mobley, 2 other players in Cavs franchise history have ever posted. It's LeBron and Ron Harper. 3 quarters of work for Evan Mobley. Come on, man. This guy, he was so back tonight. He was so freaking good.
The thing that I thought was most important, and it's hard to sit here and say most important when it comes to Evan, but to me, when it comes to spinning it forward, it's his ability to play as playmaker in 4-on-3 situations. Remember a couple of years ago against the Knicks, like the Cavs went into that playoff series and they're like, yeah, we feel good. Like they're going to trap Donovan, they're going to trap Darius, and that's fine because Evan is going to be the outlet for that. And we feel good about that. And he just wasn't ready. His game wasn't mature enough for that. And you had Mitchell Robinson making comments about him looking shook. Right? So tonight, they're in a situation where it's Donovan and Evan again, and Evan setting the screen. And what are they doing? They're trying to trap Donovan. They're trying to take the ball out of their hands. They're giving Donovan a bunch of different looks. But, Evan's evolution as a passer, as a decision maker, as a playmaker, as a creator for others, as somebody who makes these decisions so quickly. That's the thing. There's no hesitation, right? So he gets the pass, and then he gets to play 4-on-3. He can finish at times, or he can just dish it off to his teammate. He had one where he spun into the lane. He gathered. He took his time. He didn't rush. and he kicked it out to the corner. He sprayed it out to the corner. He had another one where he drove baseline and he hooked it around baseline, and he got it to DeAndre in the corner or something like that. So, teams are going to trap the Cavs at various points when you get into the play. It's a dangerous thing now. But Evan makes it less a viable strategy for an opponent as what it was a couple of years ago, maybe what it was last year at various points, because of the way that he has grown as a passer. And the same thing when it comes to Jared Allen, right? If he's going to play a bunch of minutes with Darius Garland and they're going to send that extra defender on Darius and try and get the ball out of his hands and try and rattle him and force him into, careless turnovers and stuff, Jarrett, more times than not, is going to have to be that outlet. He's going to have to make some plays in 4-on-3 situations. So to see both of them be able to do that, to combat that strategy from Minnesota, is important. And by the way, you know who else can do that? In screen setting situations, DeAndre Hunter. And they will. They'll use situations where DeAndre is going to be the one setting the screen for Darius or for Donovan. And they're going to welcome teams to trap. Because now if DeAndre is playing in 4-on-3, who can't handle that responsibility now in 4-on-3 situations after the trap? So it's just, the growth of Evan and the growth of Jarrett, to me, the biggest thing that stood out, the most important aspect of how they countered that approach from Minnesota, because that's going to matter in the playoffs. Because teams are going to try and take the ball out of the hands of Darius and Donovan. And how do you respond to that? How do you consistently generate quality offense from that? Evan showed tonight that, that's how you do it.
It's the most consistent through line to me between this team and the 14-15 Warriors. We've heard that comparison a lot this season just because of the similar ground that the Cavs walked the 15-16 Warriors to start that season when they were off to the 15-0 start. And I think because the Cavs shoot a lot of threes and because they have two smaller guards, the Warriors had 6'7" Klay Thompson, but people think Warriors, they see Steph Curry, small guard. Cavs have two small guards. They're winning at a similar rate. People say, oh, Warriors, small guards. That's what it is. I really think the through line is elite defensive big with Evan Mobley / Draymond Green like versatility and elite playmaking outlet type of big surrounded by shooting. Shooting is still a big part of the equation, but like Evan catches that outlet from Darius or Donovan after the trap, and it's 4-on-3, but it's also 1-on-1. It's like my guy is waiting for me. Someone's gonna have to slide over from a shooter, right? And now I'm just dribbling down the court, and either I'm going to dunk on you, I'm gonna finish over you, finish through you, or you're gonna beat me to the spot, and now we have an open three. No good outcomes there.
Yeah,
no good outcomes there. That's the through line to me between the Cavs and the Warriors.
I think the most important thing is the fact that when we look back to that Knicks series, and whether it's Mitchell Robinson saying Evan Mobley was shook or Jared Allen saying that the lights were too bright, like this is a testament to their, again, maturity, but growth, and how the game has significantly slowed down for them to the point where they can get the ball, either already know where they're going with it, or have the mindset to take their time, play at their pace rather than the pace that the opposing team is trying to push them to, and then create. And that doesn't mean create for somebody else or create for themselves. It depends on the situation. And I think that's increasingly important for this team, as Chris mentioned, as like this entirety. And we talked about this yesterday. Like the oldest player now on this team outside of Tristan Thompson is 28 years old. So this is a growth period, and the runway that we talk about is now 2.5 years long for this team. But like the last thing is, once they get guys like Jalen Tyson to get to that level, like that's the one player on this team that I feel like the game is still too sped up for him at this point in his career. He's a rookie, right? But you saw it tonight. Donovan Mitchell saves a ball on the ground, flips it to him, he is by himself and he fumbles the ball and throws it out of bounds. Like, that is a situation where you have all of the time in the world. And if you're not a rookie or not like trying to do too much with your minutes, or as Jalen Tyson just plays with a whole bunch of energy, a whole sporadic amount of energy, like bouncing off of things, like that's an easy layup, an easy dunk, all those different things. So I think when you talk about the maturity level, the growth period, the pace of play, and obviously pace is not only how fast you play, but also how slow you can play, depending on the three sheer gift that Kenny Atkinson referenced at the beginning of the season, when you're playing in a neighborhood, when you're on the highway, when you're in a parking garage. Autobahn. So I just think this team is so equipped, and as Chris put it earlier, like they are ready. They seem like a team that is ready to make that next step. And as we've talked about, this Cavs fan base has kind of been spoiled because they went from the ashes of a rebuild to Eastern Conference first round, Eastern Conference second round, Eastern Conference finals, and like that's the trajectory that the Cavs are on. And obviously they're not going to be satisfied with that, especially after making this move for DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you guys felt, but they went through the pregame introductions and they put out that starting five. I just said to myself, I said, holy bleep. Like, my God, look at that starting five. That's Darius. That's Donovan. That's DeAndre Hunter. That's Evan. That's Jared Allen. Like, how many teams in the NBA have a better starting five than that? Like, clear-cut better starting five than that. And don't know if DeAndre is going to continue to start. The plan was not to start him tonight. I can tell you that much. The plan was to bring him off the bench, get him acclimated slowly, let him get settled in, and then make that decision at some point after the All-Star break when all of the options were going to be available to Kenny. Maybe he continues to go with DeAndre. Maybe he goes to Dean Wade. Maybe he goes to Max. I just don't have a great handle on that yet. I don't think Kenny has a great handle on that. But that was not the plan for DeAndre Hunter's debut. But when they announced that, I just said, holy bleep. It just feels different.
How about the pedigree?
I mean, there was one player that was willing to say it out loud over the last 4 days that DeAndre Hunter makes us a better basketball team. And it was Darius Garland. Darius, point blank, came out and said, like, yes, it's painful that we lost George Niang and Karis LeVert, but DeAndre Hunter makes us better. All the other guys were really, really careful about how they said it. But he's right. Like, what do you say holds the Cavs back moving forward now? What do you say? Because that was the spot. That was the player. That was supposedly the missing piece. That was the weak point on the roster. DeAndre Hunter might be sixth man of the year. And you add him to the starting, like, what's the weak point on this roster now? What does the defense try to prey on?
Yeah. I'm wondering from to your point about starting lineups, Chris, we got 4 lottery picks and Jared Allen was the 22nd pick. Like Darius, DeAndre Hunter, and Evan Mobley are top 5 picks.
Top 5 picks.
Like does any other team have an average selection value or whatever lower than the Cavs? Like it's crazy.
Oklahoma City's got to be close, right?
Yeah, they'll be up there, yeah. But I mean, we're not gonna do it in live on the air right now. But it's like
Lou Dort is single-handedly dragging that one.
He's dragging it down. It's
Second-round
crazy.
pick.
The pedigree, the talent, the sheer talent is crazy.
All right, fellas, I feel like I kept you here long enough. So
I got a pack. Come on.
Oh man. Here comes Chris. Don't forget your toothbrush, your belt. What we listing off next, Jimmy? What else?
Your chesty shirt. Your chesty shirt, Chris. Don't forget.
One of those short sleeve shirts that I can just pop the moobs out of.
I don't know if Toronto's the place to be wearing that kind of shirt at this time of year.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah,
it's a little cold.
Well, Cleveland's not, and that didn't stand at Jimmy's way tonight.
Jimmy's different, dude.
I was wearing a jacket. Can we just acknowledge that I was wearing a jacket as well today?
You were wearing a jacket, but like the fact that you had short sleeves underneath is a completely different story. All right, no rebuttal to that one. All right, cool. All right. All right, fans. Thank you for listening to us ramble. But with that being said, that'll wrap up today's episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. But remember to become a Cavs insider and interact with Chris, me, and Jimmy by subscribing to Subtext. This is where you can get your insider coverage and also send in your questions for a Hey Chris episode. Of course, we will still have episodes throughout the All-Star break, and that means that you guys have more of an impact on what we talk about, what the conversations look like. And if you need to do that, if you want to do that, the only way to do so is if you sign up for a 14-day free trial or visit cleveland.com/Cavs and click on the blue bar at the top of the page. If you don't like it, that's fine. All you have to do is text the word STOP. It's easy, but we can tell you that the people who sign up stick around because this is the best way to get insider coverage on the Cavs from me, Chris, and Jimmy. This isn't just our podcast, it's your podcast. And the only way to have your voice heard is through Subtext. Y'all be safe. We out.